An NBA insider just revealed a massive Jayson Tatum injury update, and we've got the latest for you here as this is massive. We're going to tell you all about it when Jayson Tatum is slated to return right here on Celtics Digest. Welcome, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you tuning in to today's show. Have a lot to talk about in today's show as Tatum obviously injured with that torn Achilles. Seems like he might be able to make a return this season, and we'll tell you all about that in today's show. Before that, though, trying to hit 7,500 subscribers. We are about 150 away. If you're looking for daily Celtics content, especially as we are inching closer toward the 2025-26 NBA season, we're going to be your one-stop shop. Go down there, hit that subscribe button. I promise you will not regret it. Okay, so it's been about 4 months now since the let's say fairy tale injury, bad fairy tale injury, nightmare injury of Jayson Tatum, whatever you want to call it, in Madison Square Garden against the New York Knicks. And it's been a tough time after that. I think since then it's kind of been an interesting life for Celtics fans because we had so much success in a 2-3 year span. We're always in the Eastern Conference Finals. We're always battling it out, and made it against the Warriors and lost in the finals, 2022. And this year just feels a little different. It just feels kind of awkward in some ways because everybody's talking about how the Celtics, it's going to be a gap year. It's going to be, the Celtics aren't going to be as good. But I think in a lot of ways, you also have to understand the Eastern Conference is not going to be that good. So if the Celtics can somehow get Jayson Tatum back at the end part of the season, I think there's actually a legitimate shot they have a chance to go out there, get into the playoffs for sure. And depending on how good Tatum is, coming off that Achilles injury, man, it could be a playoff run coming. At least that's kind of my thought. And we got this report from an NBA insider that Jayson Tatum could return by early March. Okay. So I'm starting to have a little more hope for this season. I think that it was hard getting the trades to go through with Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porziņģis. I think we all expected that coming, but once it happened, it was a bit different. So let's go to the report and kind of talk about it here. Victor Barbosa of Nesson had this, saying, quote, "On Friday, Celtics beat writer John Carlos of the Boston Sports Journal made a bold prediction that Jayson could return to action in March." Okay, let's go to the actual quote because that doesn't do it exactly justice. And John Carlos of Boston Sports Journal says, quote, "I think that he could be back by March, like early March. You've got a guy in his complete physical prime getting surgery almost immediately from one of the best surgeons from the guy. I can see him post-All-Star break starting to ramp up." End quote. Now, we've already seen pictures of Jayson Tatum without the boot, on the bike, doing a bunch of physical activity, trying to, slowly ramp up that Achilles to be ready for basketball activities, hopefully, like he said, sometime after the All-Star break. But I think in a lot of ways, people talk about how they don't want to see Jayson Tatum that quickly. They want him to be healthy. They want him to return. And while I understand that if we look at the games here in March, there's a lot of very good contests in here. In fact, a lot of people here are in the Western Conference, which it's supposed to be a pretty good Western Conference this year. You're playing both games against OKC in March. You're playing Golden State in March. There's a lot of good teams. You're playing Atlanta, who did a lot of good moves this offseason. So if he could be able to return sometime in this March area, you'd have to feel pretty good, including if he can get up there in the early part. Maybe Dallas makes his debut in TD Garden. I think it would be a pretty good thing right there. Now, in terms of what games those are and when exactly that would be, early March has games 59 through 75 this season. So that's potentially the timeline of him and when he could return. But it makes a difference in a couple of different ways about how healthy he actually is and if we're going to get the same Jayson Tatum that we have had for the past 6 years. I think in a lot of ways, people underestimate in some ways how Tatum is going to be able to perform after an Achilles injury because people always talk about that pre-Achilles injury to post-Achilles injury, there's always a point drop. There's always an athleticism drop. There's always drops in some sort of their skill set. But I pose a big and interesting question to you is, Jayson Tatum, like they said in the report, got surgery right away, got surgery from one of the best surgeons in sports, and on top of which he's only 27 years old. This is a prime time for him to heal back up, be ready to go, be easily put back into the lineup. And I think, depending on if you keep Anthony Simons or not, it's going to be a pretty good stop for the Celtics to kind of, put him in there and say, okay, let's go make a run for this thing. And so I know that there are concerns, though, and I'm sure some of you are yelling at your screen right now. I don't want him back. I want him to be fully healthy. I don't want him to re-injure himself. I'd way rather just gap this season, let him come back next year fully and completely healthy. And while I get that, here's the point that I think is the biggest one that John Carlos made at Boston Sports Journal. He said, quote, "Every time I bring this up, people say, don't rush him. Don't rush him. This is not rushing." Continues on to say, "When I say early March, I mean early March, where every trainer, every doctor, the Pope, everybody comes in and is like, nope, this is good, man. We're covering all our bases. They are all come in and be like, nope, he's ready to go." So when I look at this quote, and when I think about the way the Celtics have kind of managed Jayson Tatum in the past, I really do expect them to say, okay, we're not going to bring him back until, like Carlos said, everybody and their mother, the Pope, whatever, needs to be said that he will be back. He's good. He can play. He's not going to re-injure himself. That's the only true way that he comes back in early March. And I think that's the concern that people have is like, I don't want him to come back. I don't want him to be this or that. And while I understand that, if Jayson Tatum is fully healthy, if Jayson Tatum is ready to go in March, don't you think it would be worth it to let him come back, let him play, let him see what the Celtics are doing? Now, again, these are some pretty important games here, and it really does depend on what exactly is the situation for the Boston Celtics. If they are in a situation where they are not in the postseason race, if the team is actually not as good as I predict it to be, or maybe some other media predictions have it being, then in that case scenario, yeah, don't bring him back. But Jayson Tatum has always been a guy who's not really dealt with a lot of injury, and that's where it's a good news, bad news type of thing is we don't really know how he's going to react to this, but also we don't know. It could be an easy, transition for him. Victor Barbosa of Nesson finishes out his report saying, quote, "The 2017 draft pick has suited up in at least 64 games in each of his first 8 NBA seasons, with the low mark coming during the pandemic-shortened 2020-2021 campaign, which only lasted 72 contests," end quote. So, you take out that COVID year, he's been in like 70 games every single year. Injuries have not been a problem for him. This obviously is a different situation, and I think it was a surreal moment watching him writhing in pain on the court. I think a lot of that may have been shock from him, knowing that it's done, that the Achilles popped, but I don't know. I really do think that we could see him back in early March, and that's where I stop my thoughts and ask for yours and say, let's say Jayson Tatum is 98% healthy come early March. The Celtics are in that postseason race. The Eastern Conference is terrible, and the Celtics are saying, let's say not even in the play-in. Let's say they're like seed number, 5 or 6, maybe? Like that potentially in that early part. Like, do you bring him back? Is that something that you want to see? Let me know down in the comment section your thoughts and whether or not it'd be worth it to bring him back. I'm curious for your 2 cents. I personally think they should, but I want to get the Celtics fan base nation out there. So let me know your thoughts, and for now, we'll see you next time here on Celtics Digest, guys. Peace out.